Hey everyone, so the labor theory of value, for anyone who doesn't know, is a central idea in Marxism. Just to give it a quick rundown, what it says is that a product or commodity that is produced that has usefulness, otherwise known as use value, or can be traded, otherwise known as exchange value, the value of that product or commodity is completely dependent on the socially necessary labor time that is put into that product. Socially necessary labor time, by the way, refers to the average time it takes laborers in an industry to create one product. So I actually hate to break it to those who argue against Marxism, which includes me, by the way, but no, just because it takes you 100 hours to carve a door stopper does not make it more valuable than a door stopper that was created in 1 hour. Just a little side note, sorry. But since the value of a product is derived solely from the labor put into it, Marxists therefore, claim that the business owner steals from and exploits the worker when they take that product, sell it for $10, let's say, and then gives the laborer only $8. They have, according to Marxists, stolen 20% of the value the worker has produced, and therefore the business owner must be overthrown and the revolution should begin in order to break the working people's chains and yada yada yada. Now, I would not start any conversation about the labor theory of value with any argument except for the one I'm about to give. This should be your first point every time, and that is that even if the labor theory of value was shown to be completely correct, and labor truly is the only factor when determining the value of commodities, right? So the subjective valuation of the person who will actually end up using the product, that means nothing. The supply of the product or the supply of the raw materials and the demand for the product, that all means nothing in its valuation. Let's assume Marxists have won the day and they've proven beyond a shadow of doubt that the labor theory of value is the be-all end-all of valuing something. That would still not justify what Marxists then say we must do because of any of the truth found in the labor theory of value. So let me give you an example of why Marxists would still be way off, even with a vindicated labor theory of value. Let's say there's a guy named Jake. He's 40 years old, a very intelligent person, but has never owned a business, never been an employer, a boss, or a manager. He's always just been content as a simple electrician, let's say. Now, let's say one day he has a bright idea for a product he thinks everyone would want. He decides he's going to call it a space heater. Let's assume space heaters don't exist, by the way. It's something you can plug in, and it will blow air over a heating element, and it will then circulate that air around a room, warming the place up. Now, what does he need to do? He needs to take all the money and resources he has saved over the years. He needs to put some of that into creating a prototype and figuring out how it will work. He needs to purchase, lease, or build a factory and or an office. He has to purchase the capital goods that will help in the creation of the space heater. He has to pay for the electricity, which he'll probably be using a lot of. He has to pay for the phone line to communicate with distributors or people within the supply chain, for example. He has to spend time with the distributors going over logistics. He has to pay for the computers he may need. He has to pay for the overhead, any insurance he thinks is necessary, and hardware that might be needed, the raw materials, the office supplies, the tools, the workbenches, and the list goes on and on and on. Not to mention, and this is a big one that should be obvious, the enormous amount of risk that goes into all of this when starting any business. The laborer has nothing at all to do with any of this. What if eventually the business fails and society actually did not really want space heaters after all and no one buys them? Everything Jake has invested in this goes up in smoke and it is all gone. Terrible anxiety and worry and sheer stress over risking so much of what he had is now a reality and his business falls apart. This is not a game-changing risk that the laborer needs to worry over. Now, what if Jake tries again years later and he learns from his mistakes, and this time, after investing everything in all the things I listed before, he's finally successful. Years later, when they are finally profitable, which is extremely common in business, by the way, it's very often takes many years to become profitable. But years later, after Jake has accomplished all of this over a decent percentage of his entire lifetime, a laborer then applies for a job at Jake's company, and Jake says, "Hey, we'd love to have you here. We'll pay you $40 an hour." And the laborer says, "Great." Now Jake sells those space heaters for $50 each, and let's say the laborer can produce one space heater an hour. To say that Jake is exploiting the laborer because he only pays them $40 an hour is to completely completely ignore half of a lifespan of colossal amounts of time, mental energy, physical energy, resources, and money that Jake had invested into that business years before that laborer had ever even heard of his business. So Marxists, you insist the labor theory of value is true. I say that no, it is not. But I also say, even if it is, your prescription for what we should do about those supposed truths is completely unjustified when actually taking everything into consideration. But that's all for now. Like and subscribe. Come on, it'll take you just 2 seconds of labor time. All right, that's enough. Bye.